right, here we go with the row of trees, and I'm talking about the row of trees, these pine trees that are way off in the distance. Remember, we're working from the far away stuff to the close-up stuff, and this row of trees is next. As it says in the directions, understand that there are only two objects that make up this row. One is this pine tree, and the other one is just this sort of angle, this like pokey sort of angle triangular tree, duplicated a bunch of times, moved into place, etc. So we're just going to create two of the objects, and then we're going to copy and paste the heck out of them and move them all over the place. And we're going to do this all in one single layer to stay organized. So you can see I have my sky layer here. I'm going to collapse it. I'm going to lock it. I have it hidden so it's not in the way. And I'm going to create another new layer over the top. We're going to call it row of trees. Also understand that all those trees use the black swatch. At the end of this tutorial, I'll show you how to create that gradient looking effect that looks like ground fog, I would say. And it's pretty easy to do, so we'll get there at the end. But I'm going to zoom in now to the tree that I want to use to create the initial tree for this. And I like this one right here because it's sort of out in the open. So we're going to create this pine tree first. There's a little different technique in here that you should pay attention to, and it deals with using our anchor point tool to create as few anchor points as possible once we initially lay down those anchor points. So I'm going to get my pen tool to start. Again, I have my fill color as black. I use my black swatch here. I'm going to start at the peak, and I'm just going to go peak to tip to interior to tip, interior, tip, interior, another hypothetical tip down there, and I'm going to go down all the way down here and around because this stuff is all going to get covered up, and I'm going to go back to here. Now we sort of get blocked here, so I'm going to go to my transparency window and take it way down and go up. Come on, spacebar. We'll just go up to interior here, and then what appears to probably be the tip there, interior tip, and I'm just getting this. Oh, my spacebar. There we go, spacebar. There we go. Wasn't working. And then close that path out. Now for the sort of new thing with a tool, we have to grab our anchor point tool. Now you can see that these have a little bit of curvature to them, so they're not straight triangles like you might think. We want to get it pretty close to the actual shape of these trees. So I'm going to grab this anchor point. I'm going to hold down, actually let's just use the tool as it is. I'm going to click on it and drag it a little bit to get the handles out. And now if you grab on the tip of the handle with that same tool, watch what happens. Boom, it breaks it apart, and we can use, at this point I got to hold down, it was working before, hold down control, get that anchor point. Let me make sure I have that. I don't want to collapse again. If I were to click on it again, those handles would get sucked back up into that anchor point. But I can grab this handle here and pull it out there. So you can see we have this nice little curvature there. And while I'm up here, let's grab this, pull it out, grab the handle, create that little curvature, and there we go. Now control's working. I'm getting my direct selection tool, and then I go back to my anchor point tool, and I just pull that out a little bit. So I'm going to hit pause in the video and go through each one of these to give it a little bit of curvature, and then we'll start again. So it shouldn't take very long to get that tree how we want it. Looks pretty good to me. Again, close enough. I'm going to get my selection tool, click off and click back on, and bring my opacity all the way back up to 100. Now it's just a matter, guys, of copying and pasting. So Control C, Control F, and I'm going to move the, hey, what happened? Control C. Oh, I don't have it selected. Why is it not? So there we go. Let's look. Let's take a look. We have it selected. Maybe it's my keyboard again. Control C, Control F. There we go. There's another path. And guess what? Move it down here. And sometimes these will match up nicely. Sometimes, if I just hit Control V now, because I still have it copied to my clipboard, it will paste it. We don't have to paste it in place. I'm going to move it there. And again, we have to sort of ignore this foreground, and we're moving these in place. And I'm space barring over, Control V to paste. This one looks a little smaller, so I'm actually going to shrink it down and hold down Shift a little bit, make it a little smaller. So that's the trick, guys, is to make these sort of, that's way smaller. So grab a corner, hold down Shift so we don't lose the aspect ratio, we don't squash and stretch, and that looks pretty good. It's close enough. Control V to paste, and that's big enough. Yeah, one might be actually a little bit bigger. And that's the beauty of vector graphics, is we don't lose any of our integrity of our shapes, because it is dealing with math and not pixels. So again, I'm going to pause the video as I finish pasting these all over the place. I'm almost done going to that side. Got these few more over here. Okay, guys, I'm done with those pine trees. You can see they're all covered up. Now we have these little sort of spires, these little piers, these little angles, and they're very simple. Again, I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go boom. And these I'm not even going to mess with. They're going to be pretty much straight up triangles over to here, up to here, and up to there, and I'm going to finish it off there. Now this is going to take some time again to do a copy and paste, so Control C, Control V. I'm just going to use V in this case, and I'm going to start at the very beginning and go left. Copy, paste, boom, copy, paste, boom, and I'm going to do this all the way for every little peak there, all the way across. It will take some time, have some patience, and get it done. I'm going to hit pause in the video, and we're going to come back and finish this up. As you can see, guys, I've got all of my trees done, and there's only one little problem that we have to go fix, and that's I've got some gaps in here, I've got some holes, and so over the top of this, we're just going to get our pen tool, and we still have black as our fill. So I'm going to go and create another object over the top of all these, and I'm just looking for places that have been missed. Again, we don't have to get it perfect. I'm just sort of clicking down underneath where the bottoms of those peaks go until I get to areas like that and like that where I can see through them. And we're going to go here and there and maybe across there, maybe down here to stay underneath those peaks. And that looks pretty good. And I'll get all the way over to this tree, and it doesn't really matter anymore, so I'm just going to go right here and down below, way below, outside of the artboard, all the way back around, and close that gap. And then when I deselect it, you'll look at it and go, wow, that's pretty cool. There we go. So we've got this whole layer of all those trees and that last object we went over the top with. But let's make it look like the image looks and has that gradient over the top. So above the last path, and we're going to make sure it's above it, and I think it'll be above it if I grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to create a rectangle that covers over the top peaks and bottom, just to the bottom of my artboard. And I may have to bring that up just a little bit because I thought I saw a peak right there. Okay, and so now we're going to create a gradient out of this. So make sure I have that rectangle selected. It's at the very top, so that's perfect. So I'm going to click on my gradient tool, or my gradient option down here, and then again we get our gradient up. And the trick here is we don't actually want it to be a gradient. We want it to be all orange, so I'm going to get rid of that center color stalk. I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to change it to our original sky orange. I'm going to drag, got rid of my gradient. Let's try that again. Drag the sky orange into my gradient. There we go. And that one in there. I think it's already that color. It's great, but check this out. Because we have these stops, we can make one of these stops transparent. So if I have one selected, let's try this one, and I make the opacity 0. Look what happens. The left side is 0% opacity. The right side is 100% opaque. So again, we have to rotate this, and I believe it's going to be -90. And now we have this gradient, and you won't even see the top edge. It'll blend in perfectly with over the top of those trees and make it look like we've got that environmental fog. So let's check our work with the background image. Watch, hide, show. It's a little bit more goldy yellow than it is red. Maybe we can change that color. But again, it's more about learning the technique and the idea on how these things are made that we care about. We don't care, again, about the junk that's outside of the artboard. It's not going to save when we create our final image, so don't worry about it. But that's how we make that bottom row